Sunday School teacher, I'm glad that you've joined us for our time of study today as we get ready to teach God's Word. The lesson that we're looking at today is June 21st. We're in the Bible Studies for Life series. We're studying the book of Joshua. We're looking at leadership principles for us in everyday life. And we're going to be looking at Joshua chapter 6 today, a story that you remember from your childhood. And I pray that today this time is going to help you look at it in a different way so that you can lead your people in Bible study and help them engage God's Word in a new and fresh way. The title of the lesson for today is Stick to God's Plan. Stick to God's plan. We're in Joshua chapter 6 looking at several different verses, and yes, we're looking at the fall of Jericho. That's what we're going to be looking at. What's the point? Well, the point of this lesson, stick to God's plan, the point is leaders keep doing what God tells them to do. Leaders keep doing what God tells them to do. They don't quit. They don't retire. They don't give up. They keep doing what God has told them to do. When God calls us to a task, we should not give up, nor should we quit, and the only time we are finished is when He says that we're finished. When He looks at us and says, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Or when He looks at us and tells us to shake the dust off our feet and move on. That's when we quit. We do what He tells us to do. We keep doing what He tells us to do. What is it that keeps us from sticking with what God has instructed us to do? What is it that causes us to give up? Is it discouragement? Is it the enormity of the task? Is it the limited resources? Well, remember, God is able to do more than we can imagine if we just simply trust Him and we're obedient and we live in faith. Well, let's look at these verses. Joshua chapter 6, beginning in verse 1, the first 5 verses in Joshua chapter 6. It says, "Now Jericho was tightly shut up because of the Israelites. No one went out and no one came in. Then the Lord said to Joshua, 'See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and its fighting men. March around the city once with all the armed men. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets of ram's horns in the front of the ark. And on the 7th day march around the city 7 times with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast with the trumpets, have all the people give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse and the people will go up and every man straight in.'" Now, here we've got God giving the promise to Joshua that Jericho will literally fall. We know that Jericho was one of the oldest cities of the world. The residents of Jericho had just witnessed the crossing of the Israelites over the Jordan River. If CNN had been around back then, they would all be watching that on their TV. They all knew these million people were crossing the river, that the miracle had happened, and that they were encamped just outside their city. They had heard about these Israelites and their God. It says that the city was shut up, that nobody was coming out. They had the city encircled. Now, we need to understand the pitch